So, hello guys, welcome in this Dropout podcast we've created with four friends at the Quest Training Center who help and fund ambitious dropouts in tech industry. And we have decided to create a community, a safe place for dropouts who want to build cool stuff together. And the logic following of this is to create like content on YouTube and on podcasts, on Spotify, etc. And so this will be like our test this first months of the years testing like some format around like discussion with also dropouts, etc. So thank you for participating. Maybe you can introduce yourself for other people who don't know you.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. I guess to give a little background on myself, I'm Nick. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Atmos. Atmos, we help people design and build their dream home. So we help people understand what they can do with like an empty plot of land, design a house around the constraints of a lot, the needs of their lifestyle, and ultimately get them ready for a builder who's going to construct the house. We focus more on the design process, simplifying that down so anyone in the world can design a house unique to them. Outside of this, I also do angel investing. I've invested in about 36 companies now over the last 3 years. Mostly early stage young founders who are off on their first adventure. I really think through my experience building my own company, there are a lot of people who helped me along the way. And so just kind of wanting to pass that along. I found that all along this journey, I've had many people reach out to me and asking for advice, looking for intros, trying to learn more. And I see investing as a way to just maximize the upside and be able to actually participate in the journey with the founders. If I'm going to be helping them, why not get a cut in it, So very much enjoy it a lot, especially the founder journey. A little bit about my background. I'm originally from Durham, North Carolina, currently live in San Francisco. I went to NC State, which is the university there, for a year before where I started for a startup. Really fell in love with entrepreneurship and was like, why am I in school? What is this doing for me? So I ended up dropping out, moving out to Silicon Valley, and then the rest has been history since. Been here for about 6 years.
Okay. So at what age did you drop out for the school?
Dropped out, I think I just turned 19 or somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after high school, you decided to quit school. You were in entrepreneurship since how many time before choosing to drop out?
I actually wasn't in. I was in entrepreneurship, I guess, very briefly.
Okay.
I went to school. I really loved creating things, and so I built this app that allowed a group of people to cue music to the same speaker, similar to a digital jukebox. And through that process, discovered YC, startup school, all the kind of Paul Graham advice that you see online. It got really inspired by it. Started learning about what this thing called a company was and how you could leverage it to change the world. School was leading me towards working at a big tech company. I spent a brief period working at Dell as a process engineering co-op, and I was like, oh my god, this is not what you're doing. No, it was spreadsheets, all the busy work that everyone else didn't want to do. And then I was surrounded by people who had been the same job for the last 40 years of their life, which it didn't seem like something I wanted to be in, the corporate ladder, versus startups, which was this space where I could define my own destiny, see outcomes myself, and however much I put in was how much I got back. It was super direct, and being a very independent person allowed me to really define what I thought was important.
And you weren't from the Silicon Valley, from San Francisco. What was your hometown? It's a little village or a big city?
I guess it's considered sort of a city here. It's more like a town city. There's probably one skyscraper in the city that I grew up in. So not really a city, but yeah, it has its own tech hub. I wouldn't say it's a small town.
Okay. And like, did you got like any friends at the time when you were like in your hometown who were like you were interested by like entrepreneurship, creating their own project, etc.? Or it was difficult for you to find people like you?
Oh, very much. Even the people that I was in university with that were trying to do startups, like very few of them, and the ones that were like the ambition level of why they were doing it and what they were trying to do just like wasn't quite there.
Hmm.
So I definitely felt kind of like an outsider in that sense. And I think once I originally when I came to Silicon Valley, I came to SF with the plan being I was just gonna visit for a month. And then the second I started meeting people, I was like, nope, there's no going back.
So you think like in SF, what make you stay, not came, but stay is like the people, the stimulation, maybe it's like all the things that is related to a place where people are like builders, they ship like you, they looks like you. It's like this that you are that stay you and that make you stay in SF, right?
Yeah, very much. The community and the culture just like aligned very clearly with what I wanted and who I wanted to be. So I felt inspired like every day by the people I was meeting.
I got like this kind of same story, but in France, like I mean, my hometown is like a small village, small city next to the ocean in the southwest. So it's like a surfer village, etc. And it was a kind of cool childhood, but I was very like I got already this idea of building like ambitious stuff, etc. And I was like maybe I don't know if I was the only one, but I didn't get the opportunity to meet people like me at this moment, you know. So I decided to leave my hometown, leave my city, leave my family, my friends, etc. to go in the capital in Paris. In Paris, we it's not SF, but we have like a tech hub and we have more entrepreneurs that's in the small town, you know. And I really felt attracted by the people too. Again, it's not the same that SF, but like we have a kind of tech hub, and I can relate it to this. And I think the moment I've been surrounded by people like me, it became a life changer for me because like I wasn't like this different guy and this aliens, you know. I was just like in my environment with people like me, with people even more crazy than me, and I think it made me feel like better about my unconventional choice and about my unconventional ideas. Where there's tech hub and there's people who drop out and who succeed, you accept better that in small village or in small town where the success will remain on the school and education things, you know.
For sure. I mean, I think in SF and just generally like it's so common that you don't really it's not really talked about a whole lot because it's like, oh, you also did, oh, you also did, like it's kind of expected, I guess, at this point. Um, and yeah, I think really it's like, what do you choose to do with that time past the point of dropping out? Like, it's great, like, to, I think, choose this unconventional path, but in like the pursuit of something better. And I think that's really what it like symbolizes is like,
Mhm.
instead of just like sticking with what's expected of you, like going and pursuing things that may mean more or be more of what you're wanting out of life and really
Mhm.
showing that through like the actual outcomes that you choose to go and accomplish
Mhm.
and have.
Definitely. And how like did you announce it to your family or ecosystem, your friends, etc.? It was difficult, or you lived it. Like, tell me more about like the moment you were dropping out.
Yeah, they were definitely worried. They were definitely worried. I remember my mom was like we had a dinner to talk about it, and she was really supportive. Very much was like, I'm really scared. I'm really scared
Mhm.
for you because I don't. It's not what I did. It's not
Mhm.
what I would expect. Like, and I don't know what's gonna happen, but I like trust you. I trust that you always seem to figure it out and know what's best for yourself. And I
Mhm.
trust that that's gonna work itself out in the future. My dad, not as much. Very much was more
The dad of
conservative
the
in
more
that
difficult.
sense. Very much was like, "What are you doing? Like, you don't have a plan. You don't know what you're gonna do. Like, oh gosh, this is gonna be a mistake in the making."
Mhm.
But again, I think very quickly I was determined to prove that it was the right choice. Like the way I thought about it was, okay, if I can if I can spend the next 4 years, if I can come out of the next 4 years in a better position than I would have been in school, then it's clearly the best decision for me. And so like
Mhm.
when I first came out here, like that's what was in my mind was I need to set myself up for success long term,
Mhm.
where I get 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and very clearly I'm in a better position than I ever would have been if I stayed in school. And very quickly, like, I mean, I started working at a startup, an early stage startup within like the first 2 weeks of getting here. Like, so I had like a job of some sort, which I didn't really enjoy. Like, very quickly, I wanted to get back to like founding my own company and like doing something that I
Mhm.
felt very deeply like that I believed in. But
Mhm.
nonetheless, like, again, just I think having that mentality of what do I need to do to be in a better position than if I'd stayed in school, showing that this path is a better alternative and that it's not about school or a degree. It's about like what I choose to do with my time and how I make the most of it.
Mhm. Definitely. And like you mentioned, like planning, it's true that's same with my family and a lot of my dropouts friends, they told me the same. Like it can be difficult for people to accept because they expect you to have like a very precise plan of what you're gonna do, or how you're gonna do. And like school can be like very easy and very like secure to say, I want to do this and I will do this the school to do this. But sometimes like what kind of industry attracts you or what kind of lifestyle you chase, and you don't have the precise plan, but at the end like some ideas, and there's like this all of the things around the goal and where you are today, and it's about experiencing, and people are afraid to this. But at other points, people want to chase experimentation to go at the final point. I think dropouts want to experiment and are like courageous enough to um, go back every security like school, etc., to experiment because they know they want to go in one point, but they don't know exactly what will be the journey during the experimentation. And I think this is the difficulty to explain to people and to explain to family and to show that it's constructed and it makes sense for us, but we have a lot of things that we don't know what will happen. I don't know if you get it, but the plan was very like something important in like the job journey. I think for you too. What was your big plan? You knew that school wasn't for you. What was like the big idea behind dropping out of school and going in San Francisco?
It was definitely more about wanting to create something that would change the world, and like building a startup was the mechanism to do that. Like again, I when
Okay.
I did my first startup in college, I got to see what that was like in that sort of entrepreneurship path, which is a path that many people have done before. It's not like, oh, I'm the first entrepreneur to drop out and go try to build a company. Like
Mhm.
it's been done many times before, so there is
Mhm.
kind of a path of a sort that exists.
Mhm.
It may not be well defined, but it's very much there. And I think what I thought about a lot was like, how do I set myself up for success? Like, what types of environments do I need to put myself into to like really succeed? And I think
Mhm.
uh, that not enough people think about that. Like, school is great for yeah, it functions as an environment for it's supposed to be like exploration. Not a lot of people do that necessarily, but for startups, like where's the place where I can like be surrounded by people doing something similar that I can learn from, that have ideas flowing constantly, that will inspire me to do other things as well. And
Mhm.
putting myself in those sort of environments allows me to like nurture and develop in a way that I want to. And then
Mhm.
through that, like you're saying, as I learned more about what that actually meant, like the path kind of unfolds in front of me as I see all these things happen. And thankfully, I guess growing up in a time period where there's YC and there's these very much like a structure to this path that does exist. It's just
Mhm.
and it's pretty defined at this point. Like the
Mhm.
startup world is there's like a kind of set line of things at this point that you can do. Like you go from your pre-seed to your seed and you're figuring out like what your idea is and how it works in the
Mhm.
world. Like there's like a kind of line of that you can go down because it's been done before many times. So yeah, I think to someone who's not from that world, even including myself, like it may seem like there's like no path there and you have to figure it all out. But I think that's not necessarily the case. At least again for startups, I'm sure many people dropping out are doing many other things that I don't
Mhm.
necessarily know well or understand well. That I'm sure also have paths that are
Mhm.
hidden somewhere that you can learn about learn through, and
Definitely.
other people may be those examples, like mentors and such.
Mhm. I think I got your point, and like I agree that there's like this defined path, but there are like lots, and you don't know necessarily when you drop out what will be yours. For example, you sometimes you drop out, but you don't have like the precise business idea you want, and you don't know how it looks like to create a business. What is the resolution? What will be the real go-to-market things? And you don't know like if you want to play a game with VCs fundraising, or if you want to bootstrap, if you want to be solopreneur, or if you want to build a company surrounded with co-founders, good company, good culture. And so I think like YC, they did a great job trying to kind of productize, startup creation because it's their business. They try to productize to create more volume in their accelerator and maximize success. But at some points, I don't know if you agree, but by creating like 15 startup with the Quest in 3 years, what I understand and I learn is that every startup journey is different. And like in this, like it will involve KO, lot of KO, and you have to be okay with KO because startups KO. It involves resilience. It's mean like the original idea will not work. Maybe you will work on the Web3 market when it will be red during 2 years and no talents will join you. No customer will be here. Maybe you will create something that at the end you forgot to took into account the GDP Europe agreement and you fucked up because you take too much data you shouldn't. And so there's like this kind of KO and this kind of thing that's going to be here and you have to be ready for it. But at some point you can of course choose some path that already people already did, and so that will help you. And I think that what help you is like structure like YC, but also mentors. I don't know if you have any mentors in your life, in your when you were growing up, like in terms of startup, etc. If you met people who were very helpful for you, did you?
Yeah, I've had definitely a lot of mentors along the way, and I think there's something that my mom would always say to me is that, especially when I chose to leave school, was she's like, there's two or three people that are gonna likely change your life, and it's about looking out for those people, because I think there are constantly, especially when you're out in this place where you can kind of stumble across great talent that has already been successful. There's like this ability to kind of learn much quicker through the understanding that others have if like your mind's open to it. And so looking out for those people who want to support and help and take an active role in that way. And I've been grateful to have a few mentors that have helped me in different ways. And I think it's like a crucial part of the journey. It's like an
Mhm.
accelerant for everything. I think a lot of people read books for that, but like there's just something different about being able to talk to someone, ask them like any question you have, and especially tailoring it directly to your situation and whatever the moment that is.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm very grateful for some of those people.
I don't know like if it's like French or European people, but I do remember that when I was younger, I was like not very attracted by mentors. For me, it was like another dad, another big brother, and you don't very like your big brother, like someone who's gonna get you, but who going to maybe take the credit, etc. And at some point, when I grew up, I started to understand that first there's the good and the bad mentors, and I think the good mentors are here to make you win time because you are gonna make it. Like if you have ambition, if you have determination, if you like to work, if you're passionate, you're gonna make it. But it's just about like winning like maybe 5, 10 years by maybe getting another view of what you're doing, an external view, or getting feedback from a situation you never met, etc. And the more I grew, the more I realized the value of mentors and I realized the value of people. I think like what bring opportunities and what bring like a lot of things, a lot of success is about meeting the right people, so mentors, but also friends, co-founders, etc. I don't know if you agree with this and if people were like a big part of your startup development journey. Did you got like some co-founders? Did you meet some other entrepreneurs? What was your relation to meeting people, working with people, etc.? Starting from a young kid who were like kind of alone from your hometown to a kid to come in San Francisco and meet crazy kids like you. What was like this journey?
I feel like I was in a pretty similar mindset. Like,
Mhm,
I don't feel like I was a very coachable person early on. I think there's like an inherent like uh, um, independence and a drive to be independent that allowed for me to be a good entrepreneur or like even pursue a path that was very uncharted. And so then meeting people and being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna really take this person's advice seriously. I'm gonna have them like coach me and teach me constantly. Like that just seemed very counterintuitive to like my nature. Thankfully, I think with time, I've realized like I can do this on my own, but like that means a lot of failure and a lot of the same mistakes that many people have gone through many times before. And being able to expedite that through trusting someone and saying, this is someone who I look up to and that I think that inspires me to be different in ways that I want to be, that I'm not naturally.
mhm,
And for me, it's always about like how do I find like the mixture of mentors that kind of define aspects of who I want to be that like when put together into a person, aka myself, like
mhm,
becomes the person I want to become.
mhm,
So I'm just like always looking out for those kind of those signals, like an element of someone that's just so deeply different that I think resonates a lot with someone or a part of myself I want to nurture that is like
mhm,
maximally that piece that can through conversation and constant interaction like become
mhm,
more of that. So in some
yeah,
cases it's like a mentor for like learning how to like operate a business or what good vision looks like how do you think creatively and outside the box, like what does technological change look like, what are the potentials and possibilities there,
mhm,
down to like how do you build great relationships. Like I have one person that I think is like the best at building relationships that I'm constantly around and like witnessing firsthand like how they do that and like where that development of community comes from. So like it's just
mhm,
like what are those elements of different people that I can kind of learn through that nurture those aspects of myself and inspire me to think differently
mhm,
about those things that I care deeply about that I don't organically just know or like have the
mhm.
intuition for that they do.
And you become like them. You become the average of the five people you will go and you will be surrounded of. So at the end, you will, if you meet like someone who mentor you about like relationship, about sales, etc. Sometimes you can agree, sometimes you can disagree. But if you choose him as mentor, is that you valorize him and you find him like smart and you find that his advice are interesting, and so you're going to adapt and to attribute his advice to your own knowledge. And so in future, if you are like if you're the mentor of anyone else, you will probably like share a lot from him. So it's a pyramid of things. And I think you just have to choose the right one because it's out of the education at some point. Education is never finished, you know. And if it's finished, if you think that education finished after high school, after degrees, etc., I think it's when you stop being yourself, because if you don't learn, you don't be yourself and you don't create power. You know, education is power at some point. Knowledge is power at some point. So yeah, I think mentors are very important, and this is very definitely something that helped me after I dropped out. It's something that keep me connected to learnings from others while not being like in institutional like classes, room, etc. And I do think that you experimenting the things. Tell me more about like the startup you went like with this idea of startup in SF. I think it's not the same startup you have right now. What was your startup journey? You had probably some, I would not say fail, because at some point it's some learnings, you know. But tell me more about like what you experienced and how are you today? What are you doing exactly? And yeah, I want to hear more about this.
Um, I mean, I don't know if my like startup journey is always the best one to follow. I think I've made many, many mistakes along the way. Um, I think at the core of it, like and this is definitely what I want to get across more. If I was taking the approach of building a startup from the very beginning again, like the thing I wish I would have focused more on is understanding the basics and the fundamentals of building a good business. Like, what does it mean to have good unit economics? Like, how does that tie into like a core growth strategy with a product that aligns with that distribution channel and those types of people? Like, I think there's
Mhm,
uh, these just like basics of building a business. I feel like at first I was like, I want to go off a jump and I want to do a 360 and a backflip. on my bike, but like I didn't even know how to ride a bike yet, and so I was like
Mhm.
breaking my arms and legs doing that along the way, versus
All
just
good.
being like, oh, versus just being like, oh, let me learn how to ride the bike and then figure out where I want to go from point
Mhm.
A to point B or what I want to do.
Mhm.
And I think I wish I'd spent more time doing that. I would definitely push more people to spend more time just learning the basics about building a business, like that
Mhm.
skill, not seeing it as like, oh, success needs to happen today, like right now,
Mhm.
versus like the strong foundation, a strong understanding is something that lives on forever. That foundation is like what gets you from point A to B over the rest of my
Mhm.
lifetime, instead of just like, oh, I need to be successful right now. And what
Mhm.
success means is this like $1 billion business, become a unicorn, like everything that everyone glamorizes, versus like that time that will come in time as long as I focus on bettering myself and bettering my own
Mhm.
understanding. And I think I wish again I would have emphasized that more. Now I emphasize that a lot more in my life than my startup. I guess in terms of my startup journey specifically, like um in school, like the first one that I mentioned, it wasn't really a startup to me. It
Mhm.
was a problem that I was wanting to solve. Like I was not aware of this concept of a startup. I was more like I was building this tool for myself and for others that I wanted to
Mhm.
exist in the world. And over time, I learned that there is this thing called a business that makes money, and through that money, you can do more. And it's this like
Mhm.
evolution of taking that money and doing something with it that allows you to enact change in the world. So, like
Mhm.
going from point A to point B and making that change happen through this vehicle called a company. And so that was not really where I started. It was more of like a product. Like I wanted to build something that solved the problem for myself, which at the time was I was like a party and I wanted to play music and I didn't know how. Like someone's phone was hooked up to the speakers and I was like, this music sucks. Like, how do I like
Okay.
change it? And like I decided just to go up to the person's phone, unplug it, plug my phone in, and ultimately had many people come up to me asking to play music. And I was like, why am I this like central source of the music? Like we all have
Mhm.
phones in our hand. Like why can we not all like just play music? And so it spawned this idea of having this kind of digital jukebox that anyone could connect up to, and everyone could then play music as they wish. And there's just different modes for queuing the songs. And obviously now Spotify has incorporated that in the recent times. But
Mhm.
well before that, there wasn't really anything.
Mhm.
So ended up doing that. We launched it within like the first month and a half, had like 30,000 users in the first like the two campuses that we were on. So a lot of the people on these campuses were using it. Ultimately had like a co-founder dispute and that became the end of it. So I guess a hard lesson there was the importance of co-founders and
Yeah.
thinking about people that I want to build something with long term and ultimately that want to
Mhm.
be building this thing long term.
True.
Like startups take a long time and are not easy. And I think it's very easy to go into something and be like, yeah, this is exciting. Like, let me like participate and try to make it happen. But then like you get 2, 3, 4, 5 years into it, and it's like,
Mm.
oh, this is not as fun as I thought it was. There's a lot of shit you have to
Definitely.
go through constantly,
Mhm.
and making sure people really grasp that. Um,
Mhm. They
so
have
I
to
think
fit to the
that was
mission at some
huge.
point because if they are like just cash driven or like ad dopamine driven, it will not work in long term. You know.
For sure. I mean, whatever the reason is, it has to be core to like why the business exists and like what's
Mhm.
ultimately trying to happen with it. Um,
Mhm.
so when I ended up doing my next startup, I just actually at first when I came out to the valley, I joined a startup. I think I got caught up in, oh, these people seem like they have experience. These people seem like they know what they're doing, and like let me learn from them because I didn't really trust myself. Like I'm like in this new environment, in this new place. Who am I? I don't know anything. Let
Mhm.
me learn from some other people. And I think very quickly I realized like I wanted to be building my own thing. Like I wanted to have control over my destiny and like what I thought was important. And that
Mhm.
the reality is a lot of people also don't know what they're doing. Like a lot of people. And it's just because someone is older or seems like they've done it before doesn't necessarily mean they know what to do. And I think that
Mhm.
that became clearer in that moment. I think that that's not always true. Like I think there's like I said, many mentors that I've learned tons from. And like you said, there's like every startup is unique and different. Like there's a lot of lessons you can take from how startups are built, but ultimately there's a lot of nuance to every startup and how it works that isn't always just perfectly translatable. It's not like you follow this step and that step and this step and it's just gonna work. There's a lot to learn just through the journey itself, trying to build something. And so really just taking that step to try to start the learning process. And that's ultimately the goal, like when trying to find product market fit. I'd read some stats before that's like the average time to product market fit was like 5 years or 4 years or something, like pretty crazy. And that's the piece of it, was like you're trying to learn like the nuances of a given market and the dynamics of it and how they work, and ultimately figure out how some sort of value plugs into it in a unique way that's never been done before. So for me, it was like going into the second startup, realizing that I really wanted to be pursuing my own. And that, I guess, was the learning experience there, was like, I'm never going to know enough. And really the process is just to begin and just to like trust that I can figure it out along the way, and that some people will help me do that. Which ultimately led into the startup today. Building Atmos originally was not designing houses. It was an open source VR headset. We launched this dev kit that you could buy, and then all the components were 3D printables, and you could assemble it yourself. It was like one of the first standalone headsets as like an alternative to the Oculus Quest that was coming out at the time. Prior to it coming out, the whole point was like, Facebook's this walled garden, all the competition is disappearing, and there's no real like open alternative. And so we thought a lot of people wanted to have more ability to participate in the change of hardware and software as it related to VR. And by us opening that up to the community and to the ecosystem, like innovation could thrive because it wasn't being bottlenecked by a single company. So that was ultimately like the goal. And we released our first kit, and we had like 2,000 developers in the community, and that we were like working with. But I think very quickly after doing it for about like a year and a half, it was like, man, the amount of innovation that has to happen here, like the amount of hardware innovation that has to happen here, like did not seem like we were well suited to figure that out. Like there's just, it felt like it was going to need billions of dollars and like a Facebook or Apple like company coming in to like push the industry forwards.
Yeah. And they came in 2024, mate.
Yeah, I mean, still coming. It's still on its way. Yeah, very much slower than expected. So I think that made me realize, okay, it doesn't feel like the industry is really ripe for us right now, and it doesn't seem like something we're well positioned to actually make a difference in. And so it was like, where can we change? Where can we move? And a lot of what we're doing today is still in that same vein. Like, I think the core thesis behind what I was wanting to do at the time and my mission at the time was like, how do we make changing the physical world as easy as changing your website? And at the time, it was like, if you can digitize the way in which people interact with the world, then you can change it very rapidly. Like it can evolve just as quickly as software and websites evolve all the time. And now I think it's translated more into the physical world, leveraging a lot of the same ideologies and the same thought processes, which is like, how do we make change in the physical world as easy as changing a website, but physically, where we take these like digital representations of what the physical world is and the changes that we want to make to it, aka like a house being designed on it and built on it, the grading and clearing that has to happen to the lot, and then translate that over into like those actions that actually have to be done in the real world itself. So yeah, we still have like 3D elements to what we do. Like we have 3D visualization that every client gets to see their house live and in real time on the lot itself, get to make decisions based off of that. And then hopefully over time, we'll keep bringing back more and more of the like VR, AR elements in terms of how people understand it in more real time and in front of them itself.
So the idea right now is to help people visualize what could be the dream house, the dream like habitation, thanks to VR and digitalization, and help them make the best choice. And after you help them from A to Z, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, crazy. And so you tell me you found your co-founders during the journey. It is not the same from the mobile app. You told me, where did you meet him, and how it's going right now?
Yeah, so I had, I guess originally I had like no co-founders. Um, I started off, I was working on these like VR gloves while I was still working at the last company I was at. Him plus a few other of my friends from college decided to join up and help build a headset. And so
Okay.
there was a few of us working on that over the time period of that actual version of the company. And we had about 6 people. When we
Mhm.
decided to pivot, uh, not everyone wanted to keep working on it. It was like, this
Yeah.
isn't really what I want to be doing. So with that, we basically reset everything. Like we restarted, and the people I was working with at the time, we said, all 4 of us are going to be co-founders. We're going to reset the equity, evenly split,
Mhm.
and just start fresh because we're basically starting over.
Mhm.
And so it was like 3 of the people that along the way had joined to help out with the VR stuff that then ultimately were the ones that kickstarted and really drove what was Atmos at the time. Over the next like 3 years or so, I think that evolved because that team wasn't originally built for this problem. Like as
Mhm.
we started bringing on new talent and new people who came from that background and had that personal pursuit and that desire,
Yeah.
that the skills and all that sort of stuff that really is like core to like wanting to do something long term, they started
Mhm.
to like become more and more of the change and being more and more of the impact in the company. And
Mhm.
ultimately, I think there was like an evolution where a lot of my co-founders in at the time were like, this isn't really what I want to be doing for the rest of my life. This isn't really what I want to be working on. And so many
Mhm.
of them, 2 of them have gone on now to start other startups.
Mhm.
One's doing like a lending product, kind of like Plaid for mortgages, that
Yeah.
they've raised, I want to say like 8 or 9 million to date now or something like that. And then
Mhm.
the other one just about a year ago started a company called Respell, which is doing like no code AI builders,
Mhm.
AI app builders. And I think they've raised like 5-6 million to date now. So
Okay.
I guess all going on doing good things. That's good.
It wasn't their mission at some point. They experimented like you did with the other project, and they find your things, And did you raise any fund with your company, or you bootstrap?
We've raised about 19 million. Um, so not bootstrapped. I wish I'd spent more time bootstrapping. I think again, raising capital is you're definitely signing up for a certain ball game. Again, at the time, I think I don't think I had a healthy perspective on what venture capital was meant to help with or meant for.
Mhm.
Um, I think it was used way more for. Um, I think venture is really great when you want to grow. Like there's something that's working that can be accelerated, but when it's
Mhm.
used to like survive or sustain, like that doesn't. It's not the best for it,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's what it's meant to be. I think obviously it depends on the position of the person. Like if you don't have money to just like kickstart something, then there's some
Mhm.
value there. Um, so yeah, we've raised about 19 million. Don't think I was the best at leveraging it, and now I've learned a lot more about where it is best to be leveraged and how, but wasn't
Mhm.
at the time.
Definitely. I think with our experience with the Quest, originally we were like a startup studio, so it was similar to the training center we have right now, but we were like more in operational stuff, and we were more bootstrapping because it was the foundation of our company, the foundation of our collaboration with my 4 partners. We are 5 partners. It's quite a lot, but quite working since 3 years, and it's pretty cool. But anyway, we wanted to test ourselves, and we wanted to test our model and to create a startup studio. It's hard. We need cash. We need talents. We need teams. And we did it at this, and we wanted to bootstrap because at this time, I think we were all like under educated around like VC stuff and fundraising stuff, and we were very like team bootstrap. I don't want to raise any money. I don't want to take like a financial gal money. I want to do it by myself, etc. So we did during 2 years. We created like company meant to be like cash company, So it was interesting because we faced like the market and we faced the reality, and it was the best exercise for us as a startup studio to directly create our own source of cash flow, etc. But at some point, it was a bit unfocused when you think about it, because like you're focusing on creating cash focused business, but your mission is to create like ambitious long-term venture. And ambitious long-term venture, like the feedback loop is like 5 to 10 years, And if you have like a accelerator, startup studio, or training center positioning, your goal is to take some equity, not a lot, and to make sure like the team will go the more further they can go. And so you don't have to wait for money in the 5 to 10 years, So I think like at the beginning we were very like very like oh, okay, bootstrap team, and it's like bootstrap or it's VC team, but you have to choose. And the more the time passed, the more we understood like the game of like fundraising, etc. Fundraising is not just about money; it's about like unlocking doors that you want to open. For example, if you have like we created this education company in France, Europe, 1 year ago, 1 year half, bootstrap since day one. They made like 2 million in 8 months of revenue, and we wanted to go worldwide. But to go worldwide with an education company, you needed to have like some specific partners. You needed to have like some specific open doors, and to get this, you needed to incentive people around it. So having like raising money with this company in particular gave us the opportunity to open doors, And I saw like fundraising like this, like a tool to open doors. So sometimes you do like deep tech and you need to survive, because deep tech, you need time to make your things. You need time, like open AI company is not created in 1 year, at some point. And so at some point, if you want to do deep tech, the door you have to open is like, how can I survive 5 to 10 years? No, but most of the time, any startup can be bootstrapped. It can be like financially free since month one, month two. So the door that will need to be open is like at a different events. Do you want to go faster because you have competitors? Do you want to go in another market and you need this? And so I really see like as open door, and that depend to the market, depend to the project, depend to the condition. And so right now with the training center, we are very more like kind of fundraising friendly, because we know that if we want to play an ambitious game, we need at one time to valorize ourselves and to raise funds, etc.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like the right kind of mindset, or good kind of mindset. Like, focus on building a good business and leverage fundraising as a tool for certain things, versus like a lot of companies and I see it all the time in the startup space, like fundraising is like the end all be all for some people, and it's like that's not how it's supposed to be.
And did you felt that during your fundraising, being like a dropout, being like following unconventional choice, etc., did you took that it was a barrier to your fundraising, to your researcher partners, etc.? Because in France, like education is very more important. First, it's free for most of the case, so it's very difficult for people to understand that why did you don't do like education, because it was free. But it's not a question of like where I invest my money, it's the question of where I invest my time at some point. But anyway, like I see, and it was the case the last 10 years. Right now it's becoming less and less here, but since last year, the education and the school you made was a factor of determination for investors to go for your startup or not. If you have made a good high school, if you have made a good uh, commercial school of commerce in France, in Paris, HEC, etc., you had more chance to raise money, etc. You had a better story, you had a better profile to raise money. And if you didn't do, if you were dropout, it was more difficult for you to find fundraising, to find talent partners. Did you felt this in SF and in the United States?
Maybe like some of the North Carolina VCs that I talked to, like maybe that was an element. Nothing that really came up. I think for a lot of people, they're just looking to understand your story and how it aligns with what you're doing. Like, what is that kind of unique insight, or why are you well positioned as a person to like solve this problem? And so, I mean, sometimes school is like an element of that. Like some people I hear will talk about like the research they did at Stanford or whatever it may be
Mhm.
that aligns with the type of problem they're trying to solve today. So like it's really just like, is there a story there about this person that aligns with why they're a good person to solve the problem? Not necessarily did they go to school or not go to school. If there's like enough to support whatever the reasoning may be. Um,
Mhm.
I think ultimately, as the actual company develops, it's more about like, is the company good? Like, is the good
Yeah.
fundamentals, like good unit economics, good traction and growth, like what you talked
Mhm.
about with your incubator. So like, so I don't think the school element was like the core of any of it. Like, yes, maybe they
Mhm.
consider it in certain cases with certain people because it's a part of the story, but
Mhm.
for me, it definitely wasn't a piece of it. Like maybe some people thought that was positive because I was willing to like do things differently. It's really hard for me to say, but I don't think that was ever like the core of why they were investing or not investing. And if it was, then I think that's really dumb.
If you were like talking with like ambitious dropouts, what was the advice and what was the thing you would recommend to them?
The perspective that I always had was like the worst case scenario, I can always go back to school. Like school's always there. It's not like it just disappears and the opportunity goes away. If anything, like you have more opportunities because you tried to do something different and that taught you way more than you ever would have anywhere else. And the downside, it may seem like risk, but the risk to me is actually like almost non-existent. Like as long as you treat it as time in which you actually go and pursue and try to develop something versus just sitting around. Like I think it's very easy. You suddenly have all this free time, no structure. Let me just like do nothing with my time, go play Minecraft. I don't know, whatever someone wants to go do. But like if you actually take the time to go develop skills and knowledge and understanding, like that's invaluable and will never go away. And there's really no risk beyond that. You can always go back to school. Like they will always be there. And if you decide like this path isn't right for me, like great, go to school.
I completely agree. Like people are scared to took the choice sometimes. Maybe like they are scared more to based on like the society, the friends, the family, based on direction, etc. But at some points, like you said, like you can definitely try during 1 year, see if it's matching for you, if it's drive you like going faster, going further, or if it's not the right things for you because you're gonna play to Minecraft every day, you know. But at some point, school will be here, and like also like life is about experiencing. It's about like following your purpose, your belief, and if you don't do, you lose life at some point. You know, so yeah, I completely relate to this, and yeah, thank you very much, Nick. It was very a good pleasure to meet you. I don't know, like if you have like any link to share, if people can discover your company. I will put them in the description, and I will come soon in San Francisco, so maybe we will take a beer here.
Yeah, please. And if anyone else comes out to San Francisco too, let me know. I'd be happy to show you.
Thank you, Nick. Have a good day. We're gonna close the call right now.
Awesome. Thank you.